Welcome to the Purpose Cycle podcast, the podcast that brings listeners impactful practices to help you build towards fruition and fulfillment.
And difficult transition and realization that I had to get better at understanding that just because I played football doesn't mean I was going to be a good businessman. And when I lost the business, it was hard. I had to file a bankruptcy. Everything was gone, home, cars, everything. There's one word that my partner and I talk about all the time that kills people: pride. Nobody they don't want to drop their pride or their ego and do something that they feel is beneath them. So what they do is they find reasons and excuses not to work. And that's called the inside to outside theory. Look at yourself first and others second. Most people go outside to inside theory. Look at other people around them to blame. They come to themselves dead last.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Purpose Cycle podcast. My guest today is a retired NFL player who is still to this day the only offensive lineman from Howard to be drafted in the NFL. Following his success in elite sport, he turned to business, but a huge domino effect led to him losing everything and going bankrupt in the space of 90 days. In the face of adversity, he reflected, strategized, and executed his plans to get back to the top and where he is today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome our guest this week, Marques Ogden. How are you doing, Marques?
Doing well. How about yourself, my friend? Doing all right?
I'm doing great, thank you. Yep, really pumped for this one, to be honest. And I just, after seeing some of the content, some of the podcast videos that you've put out, really pumped for this one. I think our listeners will get a lot from this episode.
I can't wait, my friend. Ready to roll.
Okay, so I've tried to cover the basics there, sort of the crux of your story, but could you just tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, Marques Ogden. I'm from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital in the United States of America. I went to Howard University in Washington, D.C. I was a 4-year starter at offensive lineman. I was drafted, again, first and only offensive lineman drafted into the NFL from Howard, 2003 by Jack Del Rio, who's now the defensive coordinator for the Washington football team in the nation's capital. And it was an amazing journey, my friend. I mean, I loved playing in the NFL. I loved my teammates. I loved the culture. I loved the whole atmosphere. And what I love most is the ability to help people get to where they want to go, because I'm able to share with them what I went through and what I played. And that was great, getting back to high school players and college players in the NFL while I was playing. And I just loved it. I mean, I just loved everything about the NFL, the hard work, the competition, all that kind of great stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I'm obviously, like I said off air, I'm a football fan myself, really got into American football over the last 7 or 8 years. And what I love about American sport is how they prepare younger athletes to be able to cope with the pressures of playing professional sport. What you'll notice if you ever see any sort of young level English sport is that they don't really play in front of huge crowds. They don't have that sort of interview media pressure that you guys go through from high school, through college, through professional sport. So do you think those sorts of structures in American sport builds great people and really seasoned and hardened individuals?
Yeah, I think it builds great character. I think it builds the ability for you to handle, like you said, pressure, to adjust. Because in life, and you know this, life gets difficult. It gets stressful. It gets hard. And so if you're able to learn how to deal with pressure, how to become a better communicator, how to deal with the ups and downs of sports, the highs and lows, all the kind of things that make you a good person overall, I feel it's a very, very good thing to do at a young age. So I agree with you 100%. Sports in our country really do start at a young age, developing character, leadership skill sets to help you become a better person overall, both female and male, no matter what sport you play.
Yeah, brilliant. And what I'm going to touch on just quickly before we move on to your story and how that's affected you. And one of my favorite films of all time is Remember the Titans. And obviously the impact of how good a coach can be. And it shows at the end of the film, a lot of the players actually went on to be successful businessmen and they took it into the real world. Did you have any mentors or people or coaches who inspired you to become the man you are today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My college coach, Fred Dean, who was my offensive line coach at Howard, was amazing. my coach, my head coach at Howard, Steve Wilson, who was a NFL player with the Cowboys and the Broncos, he was great to help me talk about life after football, being an ex-athlete, learning how to transition from the gridiron to the boardroom. And I also had a great coach, a guy named Tim Lester, who was a player with the Steelers, who was my coach in NFL Europe. I lived in Glasgow for 6 months. He talked to me about life, on the gridiron, but also how to transition off the gridiron, because he actually had just retired from the NFL and was coaching to kind of start his career path after sports. So I was very fortunate to have some great coaches in that regard to help me process things, in that way.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the time there's a phrase, isn't there? You will obviously have a lot of messages from coaches that will stick with you and lessons that are learned over time. But there is a phrase that says, it's not necessarily what people said that stays with you, but how people made you feel and how those coaches inspired you and gave you that drive. So that's definitely something, obviously, that you're doing now, mentoring businesses through, and probably a lot of young people as well.
Oh, absolutely. When of course, I do a lot of speaking for big organizations, 19 Fortune 500 clients in the last 5 years. But I started out with high school football teams, youth football teams, middle school football teams. And as a result of that, I was able to work hard and help young people build the strength and the character to believe in themselves. So I've always had a huge heart for the youth, because I've always believed, and I feel it should be this way anywhere. The youth is the future, and if they have good guidance, good tools to use to move forward in their life, they could be great in whatever they want to get done.
Amazing. And as a primary school teacher myself, day to day, I absolutely love that, and that's the sort of message that I try to give to my pupils and students as well. Amazing. So we're going to dive right into your story, essentially. So aspiration is our first phase of the purpose cycle. There's 5 different phases: aspiration, realization, initiation, creation, and fruition. What made you want to go into business? Was it an internal factor, external factor? Was it in junior school where you first had that entrepreneurship idea? What made you want to go into the business world?
My father worked in the business world for all of his life. So growing up with him, raising my brother and I always had a love of business, entrepreneurship, being my own boss, and being able to control my own destiny. And then I also went to some business courses at college at Howard, which was phenomenal. And then when I got out of the NFL, I got into starting different programs, different things, because I wanted to be able to make an impact and help people. And I learned that being a business owner, you can help employ people, you can help people get to where they wanted to go. As a result of that, it was absolutely one of my favorite things to do in being a business owner and helping people get to where they want to go in their journeys.
Amazing. And then, so you mentioned obviously coming out of the NFL. So what was the move for you then? What did you have a strategy in mind coming to the end of your career, or was it something that you had to sort of work out as you left the NFL?
Oh, I had to work it out as I left the NFL. I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And it was difficult to make that transition and not be really ready and organized for it. But I've tried to figure out what I was good at, went to a couple of different courses, got some education, and that's how I got into business and construction. And it took me about 6 months after the NFL to figure that out, but it's better late than never. So I was very happy to have that happen.
Indeed, yeah. And having to go through that sort of realization process of what you wanted to do and going into the business world and it, like you said, into construction. What sort of realizations did you have then upon entering construction? I talk about 4 different realizations. First of all, task oriented. So was there something about the task that you wasn't used to, having been your background being in professional sport? And what were the complications that you had to go through in that context?
Oh, the complications were big because I wasn't used to having to set up the business aspect. I wasn't used to having to have payroll. I wasn't used to having to market ourselves and be that business leader. So it was definitely a huge and difficult transition and realization that I had to get better at understanding that just because I played football doesn't mean I was going to be a good businessman. So I had to do some real soul searching, some real deep digging to help me get to where eventually I had a successful business, but it definitely took time. It was something that did not come easy whatsoever.
Amazing. And in terms of that then as well, you have the environment around you. So one of the other realizations I talk about is, family man, having to support your family at the same time as running a business. A lot of people have those obstacles of not wanting to go into business because of the environment, their income, and not wanting to risk that. What was the risk in terms of your environment that you had to lay out in terms of running this business?
Oh, it was definitely, the construction business, when I first started it, it was definitely no risk because I wasn't married, things like that. Then I got with my fiance, who's now my wife. And when I lost the business, it was hard. I had to file a bankruptcy. Everything was gone, home, cars, everything. When I started this business today of speaking, consulting, being an author and all that good stuff, it was definitely a lot of risk. And it was not just a lot of risk, it was a lot of time. It was a lot of sacrifice because I had to work jobs to pay the bills, knowing that speaking was my love and my wanted to be career, but I had no experience in it. And without experience, you know how that goes, my friend. Nobody's going to pay you anything. So I worked different jobs as like a football coach, running different football camps. I was a birthday clown at parties to play with kids, doing football, all kind of stuff, just to make ends meet while I pursued working the business of speaking, consulting. Did a lot of free jobs to build it up. So there was definitely a lot of risk. And my wife and I discussed that she was going to get some type of job, and then we had our daughter. She was not going to work and stay at home. That added more stress and more risk, because not just the fact of I have me to worry about, I have my wife, I have my 2 daughters, and I'm the only one making money right now. There was a lot of risk and stress getting this thing to where it is today.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the careers and some of the jobs that you took on, and I've seen in one of your previous forms of content, may have been a podcast, that you worked as a janitor as well. What do you think the main problem is with people not wanting to go and do jobs that they might not necessarily want to do in order to pay the bills, to build up the career that they want? Why do so many people want it straight away?
There's one word that my partner and I talk about all the time that kills people: pride. Nobody they don't want to drop their pride or their ego and do something that they feel is beneath them. So what they do is they find reasons and excuses not to work, to just chase the dream and hope it comes to this huge amount of money, this huge amount of fame. But what happens is you start chasing a dream like that and you don't work hard to take care of your responsibilities. I tell you about all the time, that dream usually fades away, because all that's going to happen is people around you are going to start looking at you as somebody that doesn't do what they need to get done, and you're going to start to regress and go the other direction.
Wow. Yeah, and we're going to talk about now the realization of others and the realization of self, the last two, and arguably the latter, realization of self, is probably the most difficult one, because a lot of people do not look inward. And I know, relating to your story with the construction company, there was a realization of others and a realization of self sort of intertwined. You felt maybe it was your business partner, but actually you had to look inward after all of these events unfolded.
And so when I had my spoiled milk or my aha moment, it made me realize self-realization that I was the one who did wrong. I did the extra work without a change order. I made the mistakes. I did things that didn't need to be done. Not my partner, not the clients, not my employees. And that's called the inside to outside theory. Look at yourself first and others second. Most people go outside to inside theory. Look at other people around them to blame. They come to themselves dead last. And once I started going the other way, inside to outside theory, that's when my life started to get better. It was a lot of work, a lot of self-sacrifice, a lot of, giving things that I had to give as far as time and effort and failure and experiences, all these things. But once I took ownership, that's when life got better.
That is so powerful. The inside to outside theory. I've just written that down myself, just because that is definitely going to stick with me. Because a lot of people, like you say, it's pride, isn't it? They cannot have that difficult conversation with themselves, that sort of look in the mirror moment. What can I do to improve? And it does hold a lot of people back. and it kicks them back then to the aspiration phase. They have to start again, which is why I call it the cycle. They have to keep going. They have to start again. And you had to start again. And you ended up, like you say, moving to North Carolina. Was it $400 that you had in your pocket? And you had to go through these experiences. You have to work these jobs to build up what you wanted to do to really inspire people and become a speaker. So the next part is something I've heard you talk about before as well, execution. And I call it the initiation phase. When did the flint hit the steel for you first then?
So execution really hit for me when my business partner and I last year made the decision to start paying her, find a way to sacrifice and pay her for her time, pay her for her skill sets. And as a result of that, she was able to she gave a lot before that, but now she was doing things and really felt and saw the worth that we felt that we always knew, but now could show her so she could have a better life. And when my partner and I got together, really last year, started laying out a good strategy, and we started executing the strategy. That's when things got better for us. That's when the pavement hit the road, and we started to really move forward and get bigger clients, and started to get more opportunities, started to get more of a system and a structure set up for ourselves. And that's because my partner and I, we had an alignment around a shared unified vision. And once we had that, everything started to take course from there.
And it strikes to me that you're somebody who is very driven, focused, directed. A lot of that may come from professional sport. Was there ever any fear in you before that initiation phase? Because a lot of people struggle to execute because they have the fear of failure or the fear of unknown. Was that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was afraid of, especially I didn't get a paid job, speaking job for 2.5 years. I was always afraid of failure. And again, if you saw some of my early speaking videos, I would always stammer. I would use space fillers and word fillers. I would sweat all the time. I would just be a mess because I wasn't confident in my ability to help others. But now, through what I've done and throughout my partner, what we've got really working with our business, it's a lot different of a setup. And we have a lot of great things that we work on together because we understand how to actually execute the game plan, not just talk about it, but actually be about it.
Yeah, you do get a lot of people who do talk about it. And, you know, you mentioned there about your early speaking engagements. I'm pretty much going through that process myself right now. I'm doing some speaking engagements, unpaid, of course. I've taken courses. Perfect time to do it because the UK's been in lockdown, so we've not been able to leave the house and do things. And for me, I had that fear of failure, similar to you, but I thought the only way that I'm actually going to get better at this is to do it. So having to go through and do and repeat those processes, what did you learn about yourself in the first, well, you say 2.5 years. What did you learn about yourself in the first 2.5 years?
I learned that resilience and perseverance will always win the race as long as you don't stop believing in yourself. My partner and I put out a great post today, which she had a great caption for. Well, actually, sorry, it's yesterday. You know, if you believe in yourself, you become unstoppable. And that's where most people, it drops off. The fear of failure, the fear of not getting things done, the fear of what other people are going to say about you. And at the end of the day, people are going to talk about you regardless. So you might as well just live your life and push forward. And my partner and I reference her a lot because we wouldn't be where we are today without her. Name is Dawn. We wouldn't be where we are today without her because her ability to push me when I hated being pushed, it pushed me to actually get things done and execute through the fear that I had of failure or of being, not successful at different endeavors in the business.
Yeah, definitely. That's having that strong person beside you is so important. I can really resonate with that with my partner. She's the same completely, number one supporter, pushes me all the way, always challenges me to be my best. And also what I really do sort of love about our relationship is the honesty. Something's not great. If I have an idea and there's holes in the idea, she can tell me and be honest. How important is honesty and communication in building that ideal person that you want to become?
Oh, it's absolutely, it's everything, because trust is built off 3 factors: competency, your ability to get your job done; reliability, getting the job done the time frame it needs to be done; and having people's back and or best interest. If people do those three things with me consistently, trust will always be built at the highest level, because I'll know that I can trust them and that they always have my best interest. They always have my back.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, those three factors are really powerful. And we're basically now talking about the creation phase. So the second to last phase of that purpose cycle. And it's the day-to-day execution, the day-to-day evolution of the person that you want to become in the future. What does that day-to-day you currently look like, Marques? And where do you want to go with that? What sort of plans are you putting in place?
So the day-to-day for us is, we build our brand off of speaking, either in person or virtual. And then we spin off, like you said, like the purpose, cycle, we spin off different things we can do: consulting, coaching, writing books, being a brand ambassador, whatever the case may be. As a result of that, we have been very fortunate to have different streams of income in the day-to-day part of our business. Now we're looking to do more of the automation side, like the residual income, where you actually put out content on different online platforms. People can go to it just all the time, residual. So we're building towards those things as well to increase productivity and our ability to expand to help more people to get where we want to go.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And that is definitely something that I'm looking into and wanting to get into myself. So I can really feel, take a lot of inspiration from your story then. And now looking into, it could be the future, it could be now, fruition. These habits that you're putting in place, the day-to-day execution starts to bear fruit. Things start to happen for you. And you're ultimately building towards your fulfillment. What does that look like to you? Can you picture it, or are you starting to reap some of those benefits now?
No, we're starting to reap the benefits now because we've worked for, like I said, I've been doing this now for going on almost 8 years. Yeah. And last year, 2020 at the beginning, was a big turnaround for us in hiring my business partner. My wife made the decision to bring her on as a paid, part of our business. And it's just created such a sense of accountability, a sense of dependability, and the brand has really taken off from there. And we've been very fortunate to still sustain our business level through the pandemic, but we also had to work harder, which we're fine with, and we're doing things differently. We're pivoting. We're doing virtual events. We're doing more consulting. We're doing more coaching. We've had to adjust our pricing. We've had to maneuver, et cetera, et cetera. And we're doing that because we understand that it's the way it has to be done to get to where we want to go for our business and for ourselves.
Yeah. And that, like you say, you've already mentioned the online stuff, and that sort of goes on to my next question, really. The residual income that you're talking about, future purpose cycles, because then it just starts again at aspiration. You want to level up, like you said, pivoting, build towards that next you that you're creating. Have you already been planning for that? Are you already putting things in place to then begin a new purpose cycle?
Absolutely, we have. We're starting that right now with the online portion of our business, working on a mindset, online program. We're working on the Success Corner online program. We're also working on a Pivot online program, and we're also working on a sales online program, and looking to really build and sustain anytime we do any type of podcast, any type of interview, just to continue to get the word out. And that's why I tell people all the time, I tell my clients all the time, consistency in your marketing will win the race as long as you understand people can't buy your products if they don't know you exist. So marketing is a huge part of what we do to get our brand out to people by the masses.
Suit Up Apparel is a new menswear company who provide customers with a compelling range of products that combine looking amazing with comfort. The team at Suit Up Apparel know how testing the day-to-day grind can be, so they focus their collections around one simple phrase: look great, perform even better. Suit Up are offering new customers 20% off their order with the code WELCOME20, but don't worry, Purpose Cycle podcast listeners can get 10% off future orders by using the code PURPOSE at checkout. Go on to suitupapparel.co.uk to see the fantastic products on offer, and remember to stay sharp and suit up. And I'm currently looking to build my own brands and things like that. So they're really powerful messages there. And I'm hoping that the listeners who are also looking at similar things can really take that on board as well, and really stick with them, because it's so essential. And what I wanted to do was basically, we have gone quite quickly through that sort of purpose cycle element, because I really want to dig deep and show listeners in the UK all about your pivot program. And
Sure.
I've had a little look at it, and I really like what I see. And I'd love it if you could share with the listeners what exactly pivot stands for, first of all, but also let's delve into what program it can sort of offer people.
So pivot it's an acronym, stands for the following. P is poised. I is inspire. V is victory mindset. O is observing. T is tactician. A lot of people across the globe have had to pivot this year because of COVID, not being able to go out, not being able to travel, working from home, whatever it is. So we came up with the acronym PIVOT as a 5-step process to help you pivot and adjust and tweak successfully, like we have done, in order to keep our business thriving through this crazy pandemic. So again, P, poised, be confident, be assured of yourself, move with good energy, be very positive. When you're poised and people see that, they want to flock to you. I is inspired. When you talk to people, give them and breathe life into them. Give them that sense of purpose, that you care about them and what they're going through, so you can help them achieve their goals and what they desire. V is a victory mindset. Don't have a fixed mindset. We think you know everything. That's completely negative. Growth mindset's good, but you only worry about your growth. Victory mindset's worry about your growth, your partner's growth, your wife's growth, your kids' growth, your friends' growth, anybody's growth around you. That's when you have a great culture to create victory. O, observe. Look at things, process, listen, hear, observe. Figure out what's working, what's not. Learn to observe your surroundings. And then T, be a tactician. Create your plan and execute the strategy. Strategy without execution is useless. Means nothing.
Wow.
And so that's how you pivot. And we walk you through this program. It's either $9 for the month US or $89 one-time fee that you'll have for an entire year. And if you do that, you can have someone in your network get a free year membership. We created this program to help people who wanted to push and be great, but couldn't afford my, $5,000 for 6 months coaching, or my, or my $9,000 for the year coaching, or they couldn't afford to pay me, 15 grand for the hour to come on stage or speak virtually. But they still want greatness. So they can afford $9 a month or $89 for the year, one-time fee, to have access to this information to help them pivot no matter what they face in life.
I love that. And it's great to sort of have that accessibility regardless of your income, and you're able to then be able to have dreams and have aspirations to be great, like you said. But also, you need to be able to invest in yourself as well. So there is obviously fees attached to that, and you have to invest in yourself. How important in your journey was personal growth, investing in yourself in order to get to where you were today?
If I didn't invest in myself, I would not be where I'm at today. I went to a program at Penn State where my coach and mentor taught me how to use my past football prowess and my past business experience in construction, and how to correlate that into corporate America lingo to be able to resonate with whomever I talk to by utilizing certain skill sets that I had that I didn't even know I had. If I didn't go to that program in March 2018, where I am today would never exist. So coaching is for everybody. You just have to figure out where and when you can afford it. But if you don't invest in yourself, don't expect anybody else to.
Yeah. And that's, again, a powerful message to the listeners. And listeners, make sure right at the end of the episode you have a pen and paper handy, because we're going to be going through all of the websites where you can find the content that Marques is creating, of the courses, to be able to undergo mentorship and some coaching there. I've got some questions, Marcus, before we do that from Instagram. Sure. And it's great because a lot, obviously, the UK is quite small in terms of the football following, the American football following. So it's great to sort of get yourself out there in the UK as well. Obviously, you'll have appeared on many shows and things before. But my audience really didn't know that much about you. So this episode will be fascinating because they can obviously delve into your story. However, we've got some really good questions from our audience because they've done the research clearly. So it's great stuff. First of all, how much do you enjoy the process
of what I do now of speaking?
Yeah, like in the process of building to greatness. So not actually being where you are now, but that hustle, that everyday grind when you're not getting paid.
I love it. It's the grind. It's my passion. It's my career. It's not a job. So I absolutely love it every day, all day.
Yeah, it's almost like, I don't know, that mindset inside of you. I love getting to work there and not seeing any cars yet, being the first one there. I love, going somewhere or speaking engagement, not being paid, thinking I'm building something here. It's just so powerful, isn't it?
You got that right.
How do you now embrace adversity compared to how you used to look at adversity?
I embrace adversity as a challenge that I will overcome versus I used to embrace it as a challenge that I might overcome.
Amazing. And again, it's something that's just merely in the way of you, isn't it? Almost like the professional sport world, it's just having, your opposing number in front of you and having to block them or guard them, get them out of the way. So how do you stay focused during bad days? It's maybe linked to the previous question, but how do you keep your focus if something wobbles slightly?
I always go to my power team and I let them know what I'm going through so they can help me with ideas and or suggestions to get me refocused.
Amazing. And that support network, having people around you. Did you sort of handpick that team and look at your and did that inner circle change over the years?
Oh, yes, absolutely. As I started to grow and have more success, the circle change of people, the quality got so much better and it became much more sustainable in that regard.
Incredible. And a couple more questions then. So, this is one from me actually, because I'm currently writing a book and I'm talking about the stages of creation, the stages of the day-to-day, what you're doing now. And I talk about research, strategize, act. Then you go back, you research again. How important is the research and the learning that you do now? And because you are successful now, how important is it to keep researching so people don't overtake you?
Always. You can always research. You can always learn. You can always read. You can always get better. The minute you stop learning, you start dying. So I will always research and get better. I will never think I'm too good to learn something new.
Amazing. So powerful, Marcus. Right. The final two questions then. These are the ones that we ask every guest on the Purpose Cycle podcast. What 3 values, if you had to pick 3 only, do you live by?
I live by ambition, setting my goals. I live by being driven, helping to breathe life into people that I come in contact with. And I live by hard work, focusing on myself and not the competition.
Fantastic stuff. Okay. And finally, how can the listeners make 2021 their year?
Believe in their heart and soul that they deserve to succeed. Surround yourself with people that believe the same thing, have an alignment around the same vision, and set realistic goals to achieve. And when you achieve some goals or even milestones towards those goals, celebrate the success and the wins, both small and big, and keep moving forward.
Absolutely fantastic. And finally, where can listeners find you and how can listeners acquire their 2021 Pivot Toolkit?
They can go to our website, www.marques, M-A-R-Q-U-E-S, Ogden, O-G-D-E-N.com. They can go there to our website and get that Pivot program, or they can shoot me an email, Marques_Ogden@yahoo.com. Shoot us an email, shoot us a note, and we'll get you the Pivot program. It'll change your life like it changed mine from $8.25 an hour janitor. Now I'm making, if I'm on stage, it could be between $10,000 to $15,000 US for the hour. And I used to make $8.25 an hour back in 2013.
Wow, absolutely incredible. Marcus, I feel 10 feet tall after speaking to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Purpose Cycle podcast.
Have a good day, my friend.
A huge thank you there to Marques Ogden, who gave us a fantastic insight into how you can lose everything and hope seems lost, but then you need to pivot and build your dream life and build it all back up again, showing perseverance and resilience. I hope you got as much from this episode as I certainly did, and I look forward to seeing you next week on the Purpose Cycle podcast.